What's up, guys? This is Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with SPY, Tesla, and the overall markets. I'm going to break down some big updates involving Tesla that are very important, what President Trump just said that's very important as well, and whether or not Tesla's about to explode looking at the setup. Just know that I am not a financial planner. Take nothing I'm saying as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link that's down below or use my QR code right here to sign up. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below and deposit $100, you're going to get $20 of free NVIDIA stock. If you deposit $2,000 or more, you're going to get $50 worth of NVIDIA plus a $100 cash reward. Deposits $10,000 or more to get $300 worth of NVIDIA plus $100, or deposits $50,000 or more to get $1,000 of free NVIDIA stock plus $100. You're also going to qualify for an 8.1% APY on uninvested cash, and the offer ends very soon. So please use my link down below to sign up. Anyways, now let's talk about what's happening to Tesla stock. So I just want to mention that Tesla's overall setup looks bullish because right off the bat, you'll notice Tesla has a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder for an inverse head and shoulders. And this will likely continue to push for the 455 to 460 area if this continues. Now, we also want confirmation. So if Tesla hypothetically does not hold 439 and 436, of course, it could always turn down. And you always want to know what the levels are going to be. But for now, the bulls do have a good arguments to make that we had a low at 402. We came up, made a higher low, and since then we've been continuing to uptrend, looking more bullish. On top of this, when you look at the daily time frame, we had a strong daily close on Tesla. We're also making higher lows. This is favoring, in my opinion, an attempt for 454 or above. So I think this is looking a bit more bullish. On the daily time frame, we also have this level right here at 455, so we could be going higher. And overall, we're holding up very, very well. So I think Tesla's doing a good job. But the question is, will Tesla keep on pumping like this or does it dump? What news is coming out that's very important? Let me first talk about some Tesla news, and I'll break down more details about the setup. Firstly, we have some updates from Elon Musk himself. So Elon Musk was talking about how a Tesla has driven itself around New York City for 2 hours. This is a great piece of news looking at the new software update that came out. So the question was, how would Tesla handle New York City in Manhattan? And this video that was posted for 46 minutes basically highlights the 2 hour drive in the 2026 Model Y and just goes to show how advanced it was. It was just driving throughout the city with very minimal mistakes. I think this is fantastic. Very, very awesome news in my opinion. So with what it's doing, you guys can see how advanced FSD is, but the significance of this is New York City. So Elon Musk did mention in the past that some of the areas Tesla was looking into expanding were Arizona, California, and then finally Florida, and then possibly New York. One day I heard Elon Musk once mention that. So far, we're seeing Tesla expanding in Texas and California, Nevada, possibly even Arizona soon. That's still being determined. But then eventually, New York, Florida, and all these areas are going to be out there. FSD is doing well in New York City, but they're continuing to expand it. They're trying to get past regulations, doing a lot of different things. But eventually, we're going to likely see these robo taxis in New York City. And this is the epitome of how advanced the technology is. They're capable of driving around the city with minimal mistakes, at least right now. So imagine a couple of months, a couple of years down the line when we have robo taxis expanding all over the US. New York City is going to be a very, very nice hotspot. Now, for more news that's coming out pertaining to FSD, we're going to answer a lot of questions during earnings. Tesla will let us know what's happening with their driverless taxi service, what's going on for shareholders. They're also going to talk about other things that Tesla is doing, such as their AI developments, what's happening with their robotaxis, what's going on with their overall production mechanisms, and their autonomous robots. I think this is great news, and I can't wait to see what else Tesla tells us, so be ready for all of this. On top of this, there's been some more news involving their data. So we're expecting EPS to fall 24% to 55 cents, but then we're also expecting the revenue to climb 4.6% to 26.33 billion. We're expecting a nice increase in revenue with the big increase in sales volume to about 497,000 plus, but the margins are a bit of a concern from some investors. So we'll see how that goes. Elon Musk will give us some updates and we'll see how it goes for them. But with all this news coming out, Tesla investors look very excited. The share price is getting bought back up, approaching earnings, and there's a lot of excitement in the air. Also, Barclays gave Tesla an equal weight rating, and then the price price ratio. I know this is a little small, but you could see it's climbing a little bit. Why is it climbing? Because Tesla's starting to gain some strength. When it comes to seasonality, Mondays and Tuesdays tend to be green over 52% of the time or very close to that. And we tend to see more volatility at 1 p.m. and also during the second to last hour of the day, the penultimate hour. And then, although October is known for being a weaker month, November, December, January tend to be stronger months for Tesla. Tesla did start off with the big sell, but now we're trying to bounce. And overall, the share price is looking more bullish, in my opinion. So far, we're looking pretty good. And Tesla has the potential to push for that 455 to 460 area very, very soon. I think we could be pushing towards that either approaching earnings or after earnings. And then earnings will either push this higher cost of big rug pull. We'll see about that. But as of right now, the share price looks monstrous. It looks very powerful. And it looks like it wants to see a violent push higher for now. So we look more bullish, at least technically speaking. Does President Trump and his politics also affect this? The answer is to some extent it does, which is why I want to talk about this. Um, we have some important updates from President Trump, which could affect the markets. President Trump basically highlighted his demands for China to avoid a 100% tariff hike next month. He's calling for more U.S. soybean purchases, action against certain problems that we've been hearing about, and also he wanted to see less restrictions on shipments, such as port fees going down. He made that very, very clear. That's what he wants. President Trump also mentioned something else very important involving his tariffs. He mentioned that, and this is his quote, I'm just going to quote him right here. President Trump said, I think China's been very respectful of us. They're paying tremendous amounts of money to us in the form of tariffs. As you know, they're paying 55%. That's a lot of money. China's paying 55%, a potential 155% come November 1st, unless we make a deal. So this is important because now President Trump is not just saying 100% tariffs, but he's saying 155% tariffs are possible unless we make some kind of deal with China. So now he's threatening higher tariffs, but he also said last week his tariffs of over 100% are not sustainable, meaning that's just a short term negotiation tactic that he's using. He also mentioned that I expect we will probably work out a very fair trade deal. I think most of you will be there. It will be very exciting. That's what President Trump has said. So that's an important piece of news to remember. There's higher threats on China, although this is once again for trade negotiations. That's what we're hearing from President Trump. On top of this, President Trump also mentioned that, and this is his quote, I think we're going to end up having a fantastic deal with China. It's going to be a great trade deal. It's going to be fantastic for both countries, and it's going to be fantastic for the entire world. He also said that Beijing threatened us with their rare earth export controls, and I threatened them with tariffs, but he insisted it's going to be okay because we have a good relationship with Xi, and he says that it's going to work out. They're going to work out a very fair trade deal. So President Trump said he wants to be reasonable, and he's going to be meeting up with Xi Jinping within a couple of weeks in South Korea. There are higher tariff threats coming, but overall, because he said that his tariffs are not going to be sustainable, the very high ones, he's telling us there's going to be a deal coming. It's going to be okay. He told us not to worry. And that's part of why the market's continuing to pump and hold up very well, despite getting a big sell off just a couple of weeks ago over this. Even a couple of days ago, there was more news, and the market still bounces because of all this calmness. So President Trump is being more calm. He's telling us to stay calm and that there's going to be negotiations coming. We'll see how it goes, but as of right now, the market is getting a more optimistic response. Now, there is some more news coming out. The government shutdown is now the third longest in history. Technically, today is the 20th day we've been in a government shutdown. Not the best of news because it affects everyday Americans, federal employees, and different services. But despite this, we're going to see what happens moving forward. Eventually, there's going to be some kind of funding bill that passes, but we'll see how long it takes. Now, it's really affecting data because there's not really as much data coming out. Tomorrow we just have the Red Book, and then we have Waller from the Fed giving a speech in the morning. Not really much is too significant. Nothing much comes out on Wednesday, but on Thursday we have Kansas Fed data coming out. And there's no initial jobless claims. Once again, less jobs reports due to the government shutdown. Data is going to be delayed. Friday, however, we have the biggest day of the week in terms of data since we have CPI data. So just mark your calendars for that. Besides that, There's not much that came out for today for earnings, but for tomorrow, we have Coca-Cola and Netflix. Then on Wednesday, we have Tesla after market close, so be ready for that. Also, fear makes up the majority of sentiments. The market's mostly neutral when it comes to these different indicators. The put to call option ratio is at extreme fear. We're going to see if that shifts, and that's pretty much it for now. There's not really much else that's changing. So, with that being said, let's now just focus on nothing else but Tesla. I just want to focus on the charts for the rest of the video. So, Tesla's holding up nicely. We're now trying to make a higher low right here. I like the fact that we're forming a much larger accumulation like this, and this is typically bullish for the share price. Although we might see some consolidation here, there might be an attempt to push for 455 to 460 if we break past resistance. Now, if you're a bear, we're going to go over the bearish and bullish cases, and I'll give you guys my prediction. If you're a bear, the bears are going to argue that, hold on, we could still lose 439 if that fails us. Then we're looking for a move back down towards that 434 area. That's going to be more bearish in case Tesla loses support. And then the bears may also argue that there's this like head and shoulders, but what if the head and shoulders already panned out, right? That could be long gone in case that ends up being the case. Now, the bulls have a different argument. The bulls will argue that no, we have not lost 434. We have not lost any major support on Tesla. We're holding up very, very well. And the odds favor, once again, Tesla trying to bounce. So the bulls will argue that we have an inverse head and shoulders. And then we also had this low at 402. We bounced, made a higher low, and we bounced. So far, we're uptrending for essentially 455 or above. So we still look more bullish. So in my opinion, we're making higher highs and higher lows. We're holding up very nicely, and the chart is favoring the upwards direction. The bulls will argue that Tesla will likely consolidate here, then eventually push for 455 or above, and then we'll see if we get some kind of rejection or not. Earnings could launch this higher or cause a rejection. We'll see about that. But as of right now, Tesla favors a little bit of consolidation like this. And then we could be looking for 455 to 460 very soon as the most likely possibility based off this setup. Would you define this as an explosive move? You could. I mean, that's still a significant move higher. So yes, Tesla could see some nice upside, but this also depends on different factors, such as the news that comes down, how the market responds. But as of right now, Tesla looks more bullish, so I'd recommend just playing the chart in front of you and just know that the trend is your friend, so we look more bullish. However, when it comes to SPY and the QQQ, this is a little bit important. SPY and the QQQ both have gaps below, so there's a bullish and a bearish case. The bullish case is that, as you could tell, SPY dumped 2 weeks ago. We bounced, made a higher low, and bounced. So we're making higher lows and bouncing. This is favoring upside in terms of that trend. The bears, however, have a different argument. So the bears will argue that, wait a second, back in the day, SPY was forming this rising wedge, and then we got this rug pull. They're going to argue that, wait a second, there's another rising wedge here, and then that could lead to more downside, right? Also, because when we hit 674 on SPY, we got a big rejection. The last time that happened, we got this big rejection for the rising wedge. That's what the bearish case is. If we reject off 674 and get back below 670, then yes, I could be looking for that 664 gap fill or below on SPY. That's the bearish case. The bullish case is that we hold above 674, then we're looking for a breakout for new all-time highs for 675 plus. So the bullish case is break 674 to go higher. The bearish case is you reject off 674 and then lose 670 to dump. In my opinion, the chart is going to be favoring upside. I think that 674 is likely going to be tested. So this high right here at 674 could be tested. And then we're going to see if we get some kind of rejection or not off this. But I think we go a little bit higher on SPY. Looking at the setup, I am a little concerned about this rising wedge, but as of right now, it's like a 50-50 chance of getting upside or downside afterwards. These don't always pan out, and we still look a bit more bullish. So I think we climb a couple more points for 674. Then we'll see if we get a rug pull or not, but we still look more bullish. On the triple Q, the same thing is going on. If we're bearish on the QQQ, you want to see us lose 610. If that fails, there could be a gap fill back down to 604. If we're bullish, you want to see us hold above 613. If we hold 613, we're going to be pushing higher. As of right now, I see all-time highs being tested, but there's no confirmation of us breaking either direction yet. We basically consolidated up here all day, and because of the rising wedge, there is a risk of us turning down. So we'll see if that ends up happening or not. There is a tough resistance at 613. The last time we touched this, we got this rejection. So for the QQQ, it looks like it's kind of consolidating up here. It's been struggling to break the all-time high. If we break it, I'm bullish. If not, we could turn back down. With the rising wedge forming, I do see a slight risk of us dipping a bit. So be careful. If we can't break 613, we could be returning to 610. And if that fails us, then yes, there is that risk of a gap fill. On the IWM, however, we're making higher lows. If we lose 245, we could be dipping more, but as long as we're above that, we're going to be favoring 215, 252. So look for 215, then we'll see if you reject that, but otherwise we're favoring some upside. On ES, we have a nice looking double bottom, but notice that we're looking bullish. There is going to be some tough resistance closer to 6,800. We might be going closer to 6,800. Every time we hit 6,800 historically, we rejected, so be very careful. If we lose 67.17, we're going to be more bearish. If we could break 6,800 and hold it, it could try to go higher. I think we're going to touch 6,800 and we'll see if we reject off 6,800 or not. If we do, we could be returning to 67.17. I see some upside, but be careful in case we get a rejection. Same thing with NQ. There's tough resistance at 25,400. There's also support at 25,000 flats. We might retest this and we'll see if we turn back down to 25,200 or so. There is a risk of us turning down in case we get a rejection here, so be very, very careful. 25,400 is a tough resistance. Could we go a little higher? Yes, we can. We could touch that. Then watch and see if we get a rejection or not. Break 25,400. I'm bullish. If we don't, we could be tipping back down to 25,100. On Bitcoin, we're getting rejected off this trend line. We need to break past 114,000 to be bullish. If not, we might pop a bit, then start tipping back down to 108,000. So be careful. Tesla, like I said, has an inverse head and shoulders. And for now, we're going to be favoring the 450s. We could be looking for more upside as well, looking at the setup. We're also making higher lows here, so we're favoring 450 plus than 455. So there is upside potential. On Nvda, we're making lower highs here. We have 184 as our resistance. If this breaks, we're going higher. If not, we could be dipping back down to 180. So we'll have to see what happens. On Aapl, we're consolidating. If we could hold above 262.5, I'm looking for a bounce for 255. It is testing some tough resistance around 264. So I think the odds favor 260. We'll see if we bounce or not. So be very, very careful. That's going to be very key for how we end up moving. Netflix looks more bullish. We have a nice looking inverse head and shoulders right here. We're going to see if we break resistance of 1250 breaks. We're looking for more upside. If not, we could turn back down, but this is still favoring upside. For MSTR, we also have a nice looking setup. There is a gap to fill, so it might dip a little bit, come back down around 290, and we'll see if it bounces after that. There is some downside risk. Celsius has support at 63.8. We need to hold that. If not, 62 is coming. So there's downside risk, and we'll see if we bounce or not. For Supermicro, we have a nice looking double bottom here. We could be looking for an attempt for 56, and we'll see how it goes. If we lose 53.39, we could be tipping to fill this gap. As of right now, we could consolidate and eventually try to push higher. For Palantir, we're making higher lows right here. Now, if we end up losing 179.5, we're looking for a dip back down towards 177. As long as this holds, we're going to be looking for an attempt for 184. We got many rejections near 184, so we could test this and we'll see if we turn back down. So be very, very careful. For Rivian, we have 13 as our main support. As long as this holds, we're looking for 13.3, and we'll see what happens after that. So be very patient. For SoFi, we have resistance at this 29 area, and we have support down here around this 27.4 zone. So watch 29 to see how it ends up reacting. This looks a bit more bullish, though. I think 24.5 could be tested. We'll see what happens. For AMD, we're going to make higher lows over and over again. It looks pretty good to me. If we lose 232, we're looking for a bigger dump. But as long as this holds, we're going to likely continue to favor upside. It's a little tricky because there is tough resistance at 242.5. I think it could test this. It might test this, come down a bit, and then continue to bounce off this support right here before it tries to go higher. As of right now, the trend is bullish. ARM is favoring 175 for more upside. PayPal has tough resistance at 69.5. We need to break that to push for the 70s. If we don't, we could turn back down to 68. So hopefully we try to bounce here. I do want to note that actually we have like an inverse head and shoulders. So it's also possible we dip a bit and then we try to bounce like this. I think this is looking a bit more probable since there's a gap to fill down here. So this is what PayPal might be doing. Coinbase might come down towards, I think, 337 before it tries to bounce again. Might make a higher low before it tries to bounce. Amazon's looking a bit more bullish. It's going to be favoring essentially 218 for more upside. Meta has resistance at 733 and support down here at 721. Watch 733 and we'll see if we reject. If we do, we're looking for essentially 728 and we'll see what kind of reaction we get. But there is tough resistance here, so it could be retesting 728 to 727.5 before some buyers defend. There might be a small rejection. Google looks more bullish, favoring 258 to 260. And then Microsoft is also favoring a move back up towards 520 as we're making higher lows, so be very careful. Finally, Oracle is making higher. It's been making a bit of a downtrend right here, but what's good for bulls is that we basically like to bounce near 276 to 272. We're also testing our 200 EMA, so it might form a wick here, it might dip a bit and try to bounce, and we could be looking for an attempt to get back up towards the 280s for a temporary move back up. Just a few more. We have DJT, which was kind of consolidating here. We have 16.13's resistance. It might retest that. The VIX is dipping, might be retesting 17.4 before it tries to bounce. So that does favor upside for markets. The 10 year is dipping. The dollar has an inverse central. So we're going to see if that breaks out higher. And then crude is also kind of flat. So we'll see how that goes. So basically, guys, the market does look a little bit more bullish. We might be going a bit higher on SPY and the QQQ, and Tesla could also be favoring new highs for the last couple of weeks. We could be looking for like 455 to 460. Then we'll see if we get some kind of rejection or not. There's an inverse head and shoulder setup. We look more bullish for now. So for now, the chart does favor upside. May consolidate in the morning, then we may try to go higher after that. So that's what I'm essentially seeing. Anyways, that's it for this video. I thank you all so much for listening. Tesla's holding up very nice and we're favoring upside looking at the setup. So I think that we're looking quite good for bulls, but be careful after earnings. We'll see what kind of reaction we get after that. With that being said, please enjoy the rest of your guys' day, nights, or evenings. I know that Amazon Web Services was down, which had a big effect on applications and brokerages today. I think it was affecting like Robinhood and Webull for those who trade with those platforms. So just keep in mind that I think much of the issues have been resolved by now, and hopefully things are fixed by tomorrow fully. But until then, I wish you all nothing but the best. Please take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys very soon tomorrow before market open. Until then, I wish you all the best, and peace out.